on the traf thing? I knew that was going to be ridiculous. Not everyone's asking for sports. You know which? For anybody.
Big Julio? Oh no. You try calling Julio.
No, I think Julio was the one that was saying he was efforting.
Oh, okay. He responds. I mean, maybe you could, because like, it sounds like Joe is still working on that embed. Hey Julio, how's it going? Did you manage to get to the Tropicana? Okay, cool. Yeah, just checking in. I know I'm here with David, and he's pretty concerned about getting video from there. I don't know if there's any videographer. Joe's working on the embed. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. He's like very interested in that. Okay. Oh, we're not near there. I do, yeah. You think we could fly in there? Like an authorization? Or just, oh, okay. Okay, all right, well, okay, I'll chat here. We're almost done on Great Beach. And, although I'm probably on a sensitive, but yeah, I don't think we'd be there soon. But, yeah, the Skyway Bridge is there, so we could come up on this side. Oh, no.
Are we taking off? Oh.
Cheers, thanks, bye. Okay. So, Julio, well, I don't think the other time So I talked to Julio. He's still trying to get to Tropicana. He hasn't made it yet. They wouldn't let him through bridges. He had to go all the way around north.
But that's who's on it. I thought,
Yes,
I
but
thought
he-
Mike or somebody.
Stewart?
Yeah, he said
Oh,
something
Carol.
about it.
Or no, Carlson? The freelancer? Anyway, so he was like, oh, if Haven wants to try to get here, that could be great.
Well, I mean, not there now. I mean,
No,
yeah.
but he's not made it there yet. Let me see what the distance
It just seems like the number one thing that.
Well, yeah, but let me check, because we have two cars,
Austin.
so we could split up if we need to, and you could go back there, because like, we're not really worried about having to ford water or any of the things, power lines like we were worried about. Really fast. We really don't need like to care.
Well, what do you want to do?
I'm along for the ride, yeah. Like,
Let me check how long it's at. I mean, the Skyway Bridge is open, so you don't have to go back around. You can go up the Skyway.
Like words for that, you know what I mean? It's more like a visual. So I don't know if break away or not. I mean, if somebody's already kind of on it, I'm fine with that. Well, they know somebody's on it.
Alright.
And this is coming actually not even from the news department, this is from the sports department.
Oh, really?
They're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, somebody's on it, it's not me. I said, oh, okay.
Right.
It's
Well,
not like we have to break away.
yeah. And this is ridiculous because that is definitely not accurate. But it's showing like even all the way down and up and around. But that's not actually true because I know. I mean, they said the Skyway Bridge had reopened, so this is just not up to date. I would like to at least finish up the trailer park and stuff
Yeah,
here.
I'm fine with that.
And then send.
Yeah, I mean, it's no hurry. And we'll see where things stand after we're done with that.
But since
we
it sounds
took
like
us
there's
a long time to get here, we might as well like,
no, and it's
kill the hell out of it.
yeah.
and it seems like there's just no place with major damage. Like I looked where Port St. Lucie is because I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
That's
what I thought.
Sarasota are going across the country.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's like north of West
So
Palm.
like they must have been like, there's not really damage on this side. So like it doesn't sound like we're missing anything major over here.
And then the storm surge.
Jeremy's gonna get his 4 seat
somebody from Manhattan Beach who came over to check.
Yeah, you know what? And that would be cool. But at this point, like maybe I'm just throwing this out there since we drove, and if we drive by it again, the trailer
Yeah,
park
Palmetto,
across us in Palmetto.
Totally. No, if we don't need to go to Tropicana,
I don't
I'm
need
happy to
get,
go there
like,
after
it doesn't have
here.
to be great residence.
Right.
It can be any residence.
Okay, yeah, cool.
You know, anywhere.
Yeah, nope, I'm on board with that. I was just giving you the option first if
Yeah,
you wanted
no.
to try to rush to Tropicana.
No, I mean, fun. Like I said, there's so many chefs involved. There's multiple people trying to get that done. They just called me, but this guy knows. you're a resident by chance?
No, I'm the building official.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thanks.
I made a last week too.
Oh.
That's dangerous sometimes.
That's weird.
Yeah.
What's left? The house back there where the wall is blown out, but the keys are still hanging on the front side of the door.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Pretty interesting.
Somebody ran off with his buggy.
I got my buggy.
Does it have your name?
Yeah, it does.
I got mine too. So
Oh no.
Actually, I think Brian brought him back up.
Oh.
That's the guy that was up in Asheville.
Really?
Yeah.
So I know you're focused on here, but have you heard about like where the worst damage is?
I've
Western
there've
Florida.
been well, there've been like I said, and I'm not saying this like to be rude. Like nothing has been reported to me directly.
Like
There,
devastating.
what?
Like, go ahead.
That was what?
That was like completely devastating.
Yeah, I've not heard anything specifically other than like I know that downtown Sneak Peak could be pretty good hit. Even maybe Holmes Beach and Anna Maria, the town of Anna Maria, which is farther north on the island.
Seems like in Clearwater, maybe I heard there was some second floor rescues. So
I have no idea.
I heard that on the radio.
Hey, buddy. I need Joe and Jim to come back with my buggy. I did. I know. I told him. I spoke to him.
all your stuff still here.
Haven't made it that far. Anybody out there? What do you need? Trying to get an account for the buggies on the island. Jeremy, I've got one.
All right, cool. Well, I got 2 pictures of the yellow house then.
Cool. Feeding the beast.
Snowwater vacuum for the police station is fantastic. They just literally like 3 days before landfall, they finally got it all dried out and all the mold. No, they're still there. They're down in the corner. Finally got the mold, and it wasn't sleeping. And it's like, oh, we're gonna get another hurricane filling full of water. Alright, here we go.
Super Jackson.
What's that?
Old school video game. Oh, a bunch of art. It's a whole arcade. Must have been a business.
Yeah, so that's good. I mean, like I said, one of the debris still in the same spot.
Oh, yeah, that family who I sent the pictures of their house to, they were so happy. Their family built a house in 2 years. Wow.
Were y'all trying to get up into a certain spot?
Well, he said that there were, at the front, there were fronts sheared off or something.
Siding off or something.
I'm going to be very honest with you. I do not know. But we'll go take a look. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
This was not Celine.
Yeah, I'll jump out and get some of this.
Yeah.
And by the waterfront, too.
Okay. Like I said, yeah, that's right here for you.
Okay. So that's new, you said.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yes. I do not remember seeing it. I'll look at that.
Ooh, this is pretty cool. Do you know where?
Biggest property owner here, and he owns this trailer park. Didn't seem interested in talking on film. He did say he.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. See the front of that one? Yeah, it's gone.
Oh wow. So yeah, I was trying to move out of the way.
Oh yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm just jokes about that too. You can make about needing some improvements. It wasn't effective. Hey, Kate. Sorry, enough. Our escort is ready to go. He said whenever. Big dummy, I didn't wear sunscreen this morning. You know, it's a hurricane, you don't need sunscreen.
Darling off of the car that the cops driving around with.
Or you did it back in the land trailer.
I saw one just past me and has a black box on it.
Yeah, that one has printers in it. I grabbed the Starlink box and I brought it back to the land trailer.
Thank you, Max. You are an all-star.
Here for you.
Yeah, individually. Yeah, I took pictures of that before the storm from the lane.
to visit. Oh yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah, they're gonna drive off with a new cruise. Okay, I'm just gonna see whether I can cross the road up and just slow down the coast there and see the trailer park. Stop somewhere and send stuff, or do you want to go straight to
No,
Palmetto?
I'm sending as I go.
Oh, perfect.
So I don't have to worry about the technicians or anything else.
Great.
So,
Okay, then we can head to Palmetto if you want.
yeah.
I haven't heard anything
Just
else.
because, I mean, I feel like I need
Yeah.
something like real place.
Yes.
And there I saw people.
This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service.
Wellington one?
Yeah, the one that they jumped over this morning, or were trying to take over. They have a huge drone system over here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. FPL1. It's really not big. Well, I lived in Delray for a That's when I had no power on 1 and 7.
I got you beat. 13.
That was pretty good.
I don't know. I haven't talked to her. Her neighbor was looking at me. I don't think Aunt's okay. I'm the only one who got elected.
I'm working on it.
Wait, I don't have it.
What are you doing here?
I'm just north of us. 2 streets north of us.
You're lucky. I want to live in a bunker. Literally, that's it. I'm one of those people.
I shoot like the movie Alien.
I think it's still do
Down the hallway and then she go frame counter. Almost done.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not every one. Yes, we are.
Throw it.
Yeah, throw it everything but I'd love to have one stuff like this. Storm. This would be ideal. I could just take that. I'm not doing anything. I'm working out of my way, trying to get to like the next spot. I don't look like a 3.2 because it's pretty yeah, it's very unexpected. Whoa! I know that guy. Everything. Then I don't. Y'all do like and you just walk to the 50 with them, or you go with them? Those guys are assigned to you? Yeah. I have one guy that's like vertically dropping his eyes.
I listen to them.
That's a dream. Obviously, there are some skirmishes. Pretty efficient. When I was in
Check, check, check.
Do you remember those Fox Body Mustangs? That was a terrifying sight.
Mic check, mic check. Check, check, check. Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Just fix her. I call it in sometimes because once my daughters started driving, I'm like, I haven't sped. Actually, probably haven't actually sped in 15 years.
You get older, you progressive, like bite your nails the whole way there.
I don't want my insurance to go up. You know, so I've called in some. I was driving down. This was in Georgia. I was driving down Georgia, and this dude involved in Georgia Patrol Service, and I was we passed an intersection. And I was kind of tailing him a little bit, just, you know, plenty of distance, but I was just kind of keeping up on him. All of a sudden, Sheriff, FHP, right on him, bing, do all this stuff, guy pulls over, I was like, whoa, that is satisfaction. That's a, you know, because you can hurt somebody, you know? It's good to actually yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that drives me nuts, so many people texting, driving, swerving.
I got there actually. First of all, I really
Old technology right there.
Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cool.
Yeah, I always was fascinated, you know, towards I always thought you guys had the hardest job. Some of my plans that are starting to
You know, my hardest job.
that always terrifies me. Like, I don't know how law enforcement does it to show up.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. 1 2 3. Mic check 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Mic check 1 2 3. 1 2 3.
Where in Broward are you? I'm right at, I live right at I haven't been down there in 100 years. Changed. I'm kind of Pompano Beach is really nice. They've done some weird restaurants down there. Actually, the main like after church. Yeah, it was like all Canadians when I was a kid. I grew up in Boca, just north of there. The place to go, roller skating, ice skating, and the best mechanics. Like that to your car, you can take over the rest. Get a better mechanic, travel ride, get on a bump. We see that a lot. For haircut? Oh, so where in Polk County would you have been? Like Lakeland? Sorry, I grew up in Lakeland. Any more than other cities, or that one? I feel like that one got hit a little harder.
What's the next name store, Linda? Linda, what's the next name store? That would be a word?
That's an FCC violation. You all get fined in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter. It's a violation.
I know the emergency. Somebody. What's in Lake Wales again?
Clock Tower?
Yes.
That's only 40 inches, I think.
They have Weber. Well, Weber's
All the wires are wired to space.
no, that's that.
I went hardcore.
You didn't hear?
That's a pretty cute. My nephew actually graduated.
I hope not.
Oh, is it?
I haven't had any of those. And I usually just cut out at 4:30.
This vehicle here was out until the busted glass was in the route there.
So as you can see, it's mangled.
Well, good afternoon. I'm here with Kevin Guthrie from the Florida Division of Emergency Management. We obviously we were tracking this storm for a while now, and as it even before it got on shore, was spinning off some of these major tornadoes. I think there was probably more tornado watches on this storm than anyone I can remember. You see a little bit of the damage here. Then, of course, down the road in the country club, what are you up to? You have 5 confirmed fatalities?
We have 5 fatalities.
So, this is really just, and it's a tragic thing because it's not like, oh, they should have evacuated. What do you do when you have a tornado? You kind of duck and cover. It happens so quickly. Those things are really, really strong and powerful. And so we're surveying some of the damage that was done on the east coast of Florida, and then now in the process of assessing some of the damage throughout the state from the storm surge on the west coast, some of the wind damage that you saw go across the Florida peninsula. As of this morning, we've had, I know the state has been involved in definitely dozens of rescues. I know our local partners are doing. We've been supportive of really everywhere around the state, including here, and we'll continue to do that, but my sense is that will stabilize, and we're probably going to be on a pretty good footing there pretty soon if we're not already. As people know, we've had massive power outages, which was expected. I'd say this is probably similar to Hurricanes Irma and Ian in terms of the number of outages. I think we're up to, currently now it's about 3.4 million that are out. I think they've restored about 700,000 since the storm started. So just do the math, you're over 4 million have lost power since the start of this storm. Fortunately, Florida, we pre-staged 50,000 linemen throughout the state of Florida, and so those folks are going to work. And it's not as easy to do when you've just had Hurricane Helene. A lot of these linemen, there's still hundreds of thousands of people without power in North Carolina, Georgia, some of those states. Helene in Florida, we did 2.4 million restorations in record time. That's not the norm. And so finding the linemen, given what they're doing now, we brought them in from as far away as California. But those folks are there. There's assessments being done about what needs to be done. When you have down power lines, that's actually easy for them to do. They just put the pole back up, reconnect it. If their entire system needs a rebuild, that will take a little longer. We don't know that that's the case in many of these spots. I remember in Hurricane Ian, which was stronger than this one, hit Fort Myers Beach, and FPL substation on Fort Myers Beach right there at Ground Zero was fine. They could have had people hooked up to power days later. Just the people's homes couldn't accept it because of the storm surge. So all that is going on, and we're happy to have pre-staged those resources because I think it's really important that we'll be able to do. We're also assessing the need for things like points of distribution. We typically will set up these pods with water, food, tarps, things of that nature. I think we will be doing some pods. A lot of this is based on what the counties ask us for, but I also think you're probably going to see a lot of the stores and gas stations reopen very quickly. At least that's our hope. We're also looking at the damage that was done to the ports in Florida. East Coast, I don't think there was very much, if any. Port of Tampa seems like it's okay. Manatee, that remains to be seen. But bottom line is we got to keep bringing fuel into this state. I know there's a lot on the dockside still that can be brought out. We've got 1.5 million gallons of diesel on hand that we can use for the state and to help replenish. And I think we've got about 1.1 million gallons of regular gasoline just in our arsenal. And then we've also deputized the Florida Highway Patrol to escort the fuel tankers with sirens to be able to get to all the gas stations to get filled. I think you're probably going to be okay on the east coast of Florida. Some of the places in the Tampa Bay area, when there was evacuation, everyone was going to get gas, and some people were filling up additional tanks in addition to what was in their car with the gallon containers or whatever they have, which is fine, but just the demand went through the roof. And so these guys ran out. We had enough fuel in the state. It's just they didn't have the delivery schedule to be able to replenish it immediately, so you had some that went out. So we've been doing this. I think we've done probably about 130 escorts with Florida Highway Patrol bringing this in. We'll continue to do that. So my hope is that there's minimal interruption with fuel on the backside of this storm. We've had a lot of people have been working very hard. I think, as most of you know, we've been doing this now for 2.5 weeks from the time we declared the state of emergency before Hurricane Helene, and then in the aftermath of Helene, and then we work on Helene for a week in terms of the response and the recovery, and then we got to do another state of emergency for Hurricane Milton. And it's just the way you go. So people have been working 24/7, particularly on the west coast of Florida. We got a lot of first responders that have been working really hard. Kevin and his team, all of our state agencies get mobilized when we have these types of events, and they've been working nonstop. So my hat's off to everybody that's worked hard. Unfortunately, we have the fatalities from this tornado here. We don't have confirmed reports of other fatalities throughout the rest of the state, but we may as the day goes on. My sense is that a lot of the people did leave who were in the evacuation zones. I know we had over 80,000 people staying in shelters. You had massive heavy traffic on the interstates over the last several days leading up to the storm, because I think people were deciding to just get out of Dodge. We also can say that the storm did not produce the worst case scenario in terms of storm surge. If you remember, about 24 hours ago, maybe 36 hours ago, the fear was a Category 4, strong 4, going into Tampa Bay, producing about 15 feet of storm surge. That's an area with Pinellas County Peninsula and then the surrounding areas in Hillsborough County that is very low lying, very susceptible to storm surge. That did not end up happening. The storm did weaken before it hit land, and then it did bear further to the east and south of Tampa Bay. So I think a lot of what they had was the wind sucked water out of Tampa Bay. You did have storm surge in Sarasota, Venice, Charlotte Harbor, and all the way down the west coast of Florida, and some significant storm surge, but not to the worst case scenario of what we were looking at. I mean, for example, Helene, we had storm surge in Taylor County up in North Florida that was probably about 20 feet in places like Deacle Beach and Horseshoe Beach. And that is the real deal. I mean, we have examples in American history where you've actually had a lot more than that, 24, 25 feet, Mississippi, Texas, Camille, some of those. But to have 18 to 20, that's a big deal. So doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of damage. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot we're going to have to contend with. But just in terms of what we were prepped for, I think that we probably have an abundance of resources. My sense is we'll probably be able to release a lot of the search and rescue resources that we've had on hand very soon, and then just get back to getting everybody back online with power, making sure the gasoline's flowing and everything. So all in all, everyone's done a good job up to this point. We got a lot more work to do, and I'll let Kevin come in and say a few things.
Thank you, Governor. I think in this situation here, where we're at, the strength of what happened here is organically our state mutual aid system. The very first group that was on hand here was a Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Search and Rescue Team. That's not even officially a part of our state 8-team search and rescue team system. Maybe we want to change that in the future and put them on that. But that Type 3 team, which is self-funded 100% by Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, was the first ones in to this situation, followed up by Miami-Dade Task Force 1, and then Ohio and Virginia Task Force. And again, I think that's just the strength of not just the state emergency response team, the state emergency response plan, but also outside states helping states. Some people were a little critical of the governor sending state assets up to North Carolina, but right here when we needed them, we got all those guys back, but immediately Virginia, Ohio, California, and other states from around the country had their assets right here. So, this is one of those examples. The sheriff was telling us about this when we were walking up. He was very grateful for those assets being in here so quickly. But that's the strength of the State Emergency Response Team, the State Emergency Response Plan, and then the greater Emergency Management Assistance Compact that we pull from. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here. This is the first day of many, many to come, probably over the next couple of years. Again, it's going to take us a long time to get all the recovery done, but we're not going to let bureaucracy get in the way. We're going to get this done as quickly as we possibly can. So thank you, Governor, for your leadership.
Do you want to maybe just give an update on what we think we're going to get from FEMA for debris removal?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to start getting back in the debris removal business. And, we're going to supplement where we need to supplement. But we had a really good conversation with Administrator Criswell, who is here in Florida and is actually on her way somewhere in this general direction. But she is working with us on how we could ensure that debris gets picked up quickly. How do we, and the right word is not incentivize it, but if you're in the private sector, it would be, how do we incentivize haulers to get stuff picked up faster, bringing in people from around the country to get that done. We're also looking at potentially, again, a mutual aid effort where we may bring in some city and county assets that have the claw trucks and the loader trucks from around the state of Florida and maybe even outside the state of Florida to help us get that stuff picked up. So again, she's very, very helpful on getting those things done, making sure that we got everything that we need. We will be submitting, hopefully by this afternoon, now that we got post-landfall and we got some data, we'll be submitting through the governor's signature a major disaster expedited request so that we could get those federal funds turned on and start looking for reimbursement. But again, we're not going to wait on the feds for reimbursement. We're going to do what we need to do the right thing, get people in Floridians back on their feet. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, so this whole debris, it's just. I mean, you had like in Pinellas, they didn't want to do the debris as fast because they weren't sure about the paperwork and about FEMA reimburse. And it's like, you got to get the debris off. And these storms, because of the way it's done, really incentivizes it to go a lot longer with the debris. And sometimes the debris in these major storms is around for a year. And how ridiculous is that? So what Kevin's doing, and I think the administration wants to work with us, is to let's align these incentives so we can get the job better. You'd think the private sector would do it so much better than government. At least that's what I would think. And yet on this debris after Helene, when we saw how much was there and we knew another storm was coming, we got all our Department of Transportation assets from Florida. We were bringing trucks in from all over the state that are doing their normal duties, and we surged them over to the barrier islands off the Gulf Coast of Florida, and we did like 3,000 truckloads of debris, reduced the debris by 50% in 72 hours. And we did round the clock. We had 24/7 shifts going, but that's a sense of urgency. So I just think that, that may be an extreme, like doing 24/7, but I mean, you should be able to get the debris done earlier than that. So I'm hoping that they can do this in a way that's going to make sense so that the local governments can bring their contractors in and clean up the debris. We'll see what the debris was left on this storm. I don't think we have a real good sense about how much compared to the other. I mean, I think the storm surge overall was not as high as the others, but I also think it probably the winds hit more of the Florida Peninsula on this. So I think in terms of tree damage, I think you're going to see a lot of that. And then, of course, we had more tornadoes for Milton than we did for Helene. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But I really think getting a better posture on how they do the debris reimbursements would make a lot of sense, and I think it would move this process along a lot further. And it's also just a morale thing. You get hit with a storm, seeing debris is just a constant reminder that you got hit. When things get picked up, things look nice, people feel a lot better about it. So we got to get that. We got to make sure they get that job done. Okay, do we have any questions? Yes, I spoke with the president this morning, and Kevin was on the phone with me. We were on, the administrator of FEMA was in the office with us in Tallahassee at the Emergency Operations Center, and he said he wants to be helpful. And so if we have requests, he said send them his way, and he wants to help us get the job done. So I appreciate being able to collaborate across the federal, state, and local governments and work together to put the people first. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think it's So, you know, you do have these tornadoes, the warnings, how many actually touch down is probably a different one. But I would say what I've seen so far is that St. Lucie had the most tornado damage of anyone I've seen. Is that what your reports?
Yeah, and we know that we had over 120 tornado warnings statewide. It's probably going to be higher than that. All of those tornado confirmations come from your local weather forecasting office. So those individuals that come around and confirm all of those tornadoes. We have 4 meteorologists that said that we had probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 radar indicated tornadoes. All that means that they see a debris signature in the circulation. But again, the weather forecasting offices of the National Weather Service will actually verify those tornadoes.
Was that in St. Lucie County?
Excuse me?
Sorry, was that in St. Lucie County alone, the 20 to 25?
No.
Statewide.
Statewide.
Yep.
Hey, Sheriff Pearson, could you please clarify? I know we've got 4 deaths in the Spanish Lakes area. Where was the 5th death in St. Lucie County?
In the same area. As our rescue team is still out there, this is a rescue mission. We're sifting through the debris. They just recently, right before this conference, located another victim, unfortunately. But again, we're going to continue through this. You know, we're so grateful that the governor sent down, this was during the storm, he sent down the National Guard. So while we're all hunkering down, trying to stay safe, these men and women are driving through the storm to get here, and they work throughout the night, and their actions 100% saved lives, saved our lives.
Governor, I know before the storm there was a great concern about the debris from Helene. How much worse did this storm make the debris that was already accumulated?
I think that'll be assessed today. I can tell you, whatever happened, had we not done what we did with that 72-hour project to take every truck in Florida and help these counties and these cities, you know, some of these contractors were doing the debris and then they left and went to North Carolina because they could make more money there. And then others were working like banker's hours. And I'm just thinking to myself, how the hell is that something that's acceptable? And so we came in and we said, not only are we going to send all these assets, it's going to be 24/7. So the first night we go there, and the county, I think it was Pinellas, they didn't have the landfill open 24/7. So our guys cut the locks, and we started doing. And you had all these, not just the state trucks, you had private citizens with their Ford F-250 pickup trucks that were loading debris, massive amounts in. So he said we got to keep it going. Then the next night, there were 2 entrances, and they closed one of the entrances, and there were 300 cars in line. So we somehow rigged that and opened that up. So this is just like, where's the sense of urgency? So it may be that this debris ended up not causing much more damage, but if it did cause more damage, I could tell you, had we not come in and did what we did, you would have had a lot more. And the thing is like, I mean, I tell Kevin, I'm like, look, we want to be helpful, and we will be helpful, but you know, the state's job is not to pick up the debris. Like, that's the local community's responsibility. And so this was an extraordinary circumstance where we came in and did it. And I think part of the reason, and I think there was enough debris there that I don't think you could have gotten it all in 2 weeks, realistically. But I mean, there clearly was not a sense of urgency after the first storm hit. And yes, we knew there may be another one. Then they said, well, just a rainstorm, maybe not, this and that. But then by last weekend, by like last Friday, we were looking at it and we're like, you know what, this is real. We got to be serious about it. And then we did the executive order on Saturday. So, you know, but I definitely think we help things by doing that. And as of now, I'm not sure about structural damage on any of the roads there. I'm going to go over to Siesta Key after this in Sarasota. That was kind of ground zero of where the surge came in. You know, we just repaired one of the roads from Longboat Key up to Anna Maria. Do you know how that's fared? Have we gotten any reports?
I have not, sir.
So we did emergency repairs on that, got it back open. We'll see. We may have to do some more repairs on that. I think that there may have been some small bridges throughout the state that have some damage. The big bridges we have in the Tampa Bay area, Gandy, Howard Franklin, I know Sunshine Skyway is going to be open if it's not already. The other 2 are open. Courtney Campbell will be open as soon as they move the debris and finish the debris removal. So all being told, you're going to have all those major bridges back open if they're not already.
So, Governor, do you have any ballpark of how many ongoing rescues there are around the state?
No, because I think it's, we do our rest. So we've got Florida National Guard, Florida Fish and Wildlife, Florida State Guard, Florida Highway Patrol, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And they will do their own rescues by themselves. But then we also have the local outfits. So the Sheriff's Department in Sarasota and Bradenton, police departments, fire departments. Sometimes we do joint operations, but a lot of the times if someone calls 911, they're going. My sense would be, and Kevin can chime in on this, we've probably had less demand for rescues on Milton than we did on Helene. Do you agree?
Yes, sir, I agree. We do have a number of federal and state assets out there doing search and rescue. In addition to everything the governor said, the Florida urban search and rescue teams that are associated with fire departments across the state of Florida. All of those are in the fight. They're all out there actively assessing and looking for people right now. They will do a door-to-door, especially in the landfall area, the landfall path. We've got them stretched from here in St. Lucie all the way over to where landfall happened and all the way up to the east coast or northeast coast of Florida. Once we finish all that, so I would literally, to your question, say there's hundreds of rescues ongoing. But to the governor's point, as we were driving in today, I see Sheriff Chronister doing active rescues in Hillsborough County. I see active rescues going on in Pinellas County, and so on. So they're going on organically at the local level, at the state level, and then the federal teams that are here supplementing our state ongoing response are also here.
But I would say, I think for Helene, I think the first 24 to 36 hours, I think there were statewide, local, state combined, there were probably thousands of rescues. My sense would be we're probably in the hundreds of rescues statewide so far. But I think you're going to see, because we had more inland flooding, you're going to see some floods happen in the ensuing days. And you may have to have some people go in and do some rescues there. So I think you may see it be ongoing.
Can we have an update from the federal level? I've kept Congressman Mass update us on what's going on federally.
As Governor spoke about, FEMA Administrator Creswell is headed here on the ground. And the only thing I would add to it, Governor's done a fantastic job just being an air traffic control tower for all of this, making sure the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. From the governor's office to the sheriff's department across the state, state representatives, state senators, Florida Highway Patrol, National Guard, FDLE, Florida Power and Light, everybody made sure they could do every ounce of prevention, and they're working with FEMA. That's the update from the federal side. They're all working with FEMA.
And just so I think the notice for this said that Administrator FEMA was going to be here. That was the intention, but I think her plane got diverted over to Sarasota. So I think she's going to be at our Sarasota briefing when we do that later today. Yes, sir.
What damage have you assessed in western St. Lucie County over by unincorporated farmland?
Yeah.
So the unincorporated farmland is agricultural. We haven't had any really reports of structural damages because it's just that, agricultural. Right now we're focusing on rescue missions, and that area is to that half square mile radius there in northern Fort Pierce that we're doing the active rescues in. Everybody else is accounted for, although there's damage throughout the county. The agricultural area, again, is just that, agricultural area. So we'll get to that. We're just prioritizing things right now. It's still an active rescue mission.
Sarah, to clarify, were the 5 deaths here in St. Lucie all from the tornado?
Yes, we're going to attribute those deaths to that specific area that we're doing active rescues in. Again, we're focusing on trying to rescue as many people as we can with the National Guard, with the SARS teams in here, and the amazing men and women of the Sheriff's Office and Fire Rescue. We were able to get 25 people out of there and get them in a safe area. But again, the work's not over. They worked through this storm. They worked before the storm, during the storm, and they're going to continue to work until we make sure that anybody there that needs to be rescued will be rescued.
Obviously, with every hurricane, tornadoes are a concern, but it seems like the story of Hurricane Milton really is all of the tornadoes. Have you ever seen something of this magnitude, just as far as the number of tornadoes and the amount of damage they did?
Well, I mean, every hurricane we have a lot of tornadoes spun off. I think we may have had more tornado warnings on this one than the typical hurricane, I would think. But to see what happened here, sadly, that is not something that's uncommon. These tornadoes, I mean, when Mother Nature, I mean, this is just churning. Things churn off these weather systems, and it's just devastating. And so this is unfortunately something that is kind of normal with the big storm. We probably had more warnings than we would with normal storms, but and especially the ones that come across the peninsula like this, you could get it. I mean, you've got east coast of Florida, Palm Beach, St. Lucie, a bunch of stuff happened over here, and you were probably hundreds of miles away from the eye of the storm at the time those tornadoes were spun off. But that is just that is to be expected to a certain extent.
It's not due to global warming?
Tornadoes?
Yeah, it's increasing tornadoes in
I think you could go back and find tornadoes for all of human history for sure, and especially Florida. How does this storm rate in kind of the history of storms? I think it hit with a barometric pressure of, what was it, about 950 millibars when it hit, which I think if you go back to 1851, there's probably been 27 hurricanes that have had lower so the lower the barometric pressure, the stronger it is. I think there have been about 27 hurricanes that have had lower barometric pressure on landfall than Milton did. And of those, 17 occurred, I think, prior to 1960. And the most powerful hurricane on record since the 1850s in the state of Florida occurred in the 1930s, the Labor Day hurricane. Barometric pressure on that was 892 millibars. It totally wiped out the Keys. We've never seen anything like it, and that remains head and shoulders above any powerful hurricane that we've ever had in the state of Florida. The most deadly hurricane we've ever had was in 1928, the Okeechobee hurricane, killed over 4,000 people. Fortunately, we aren't going to have anything close to that on this hurricane, but even ones like Ian, where you had, wasn't even close to that. So I just think people should put this in perspective. They try to take different things that happen with tropical weather and act like it's something. There's nothing new under the sun. This is something that the state has dealt with for its entire history, and it's something that we'll continue to deal with. I think what's changed is we've got 23 million people. A storm that hits is likely to hit more people and property than it would have 100 years ago, and so the potential for that damage has grown. But what's also changed is our ability to do the prevention, to pre-stage the assets. I mean, we never did the pre-staging of power assets until I became governor. Now people expect that, but that wasn't what was done in the past. That's why people would be out with power for 3 weeks when we'd have hurricanes. We thought that that's not good. Now we have to pay to get these guys to come in, but my view is the quicker you get everyone hooked up, the better off the economy is going to be anyway. So why don't we just do that? Having the different search and rescue, having a state guard, all these different things are just bringing different tools to the fight, and it allows us to respond more effectively. So if we had the tools that we had in 1928 to fight an Ian or to fight some of these, you would have had higher death tolls. There's no question about that.
Speaking of history, sir, how many storms formed as rapidly as they have between Helena and Milton?
Oh, I mean, I think most people remember 2004, right? Where we had seemed like you had them every other week in 2004. Then there's also time period. We had from 2006 to 16, we had no hurricanes at all in Florida. There's also been times where we had a lot. The 1940s, we were getting hit a lot. Now more recently, we've had a spate of more. So that's just kind of the nature of it. But this really does. It has a lot of similarities to 2004 in terms of the season.
Yeah, Governor. A lot of folks, particularly quite a few who trust you and look to you for information, are possibly engaging in some misinformation about some entity controlling the weather. Can you take this opportunity to denounce that misinformation and set the record straight for folks who believe someone is controlling the weather?
Look, if I could control the weather, I would do 78 and sunny year round. Now we get that a lot in Florida, coming up in the months, but there would be no reason to ever do. So look, and this is on both sides. You kind of have some people think government can do this, and then others think it's all because of fossil fuels. The reality is what we see. There's precedent for all this in history. like it is hurricane season. You are going to have tropical weather. We hope that, you know, a lot of the tropical weather are fish storms out in the Atlantic that never impact us. The reality is anything that gets in the Gulf of Mexico, it's got to hit something. Maybe it hits Mexico, maybe it hits Louisiana, but Florida's one, especially if it's when they bend east. We're the ones that are going to do. So like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. These are natural occurrences. We will deal with tropical weather for as long as we're Floridians.
What about the role of carbon emissions in propagating said storms?
Well, I've already addressed the historical record of the storms in Florida. Like I said, we've our biggest storm, our strongest storm by far, remains the Labor Day from the 1930s. All right, we're going to go to Sarasota after this. We're going to go inspect the damage there, see what the needs are. I appreciate what the sheriff and his team are doing to help the citizens here. We are very, very saddened to see a tornado inflict such serious damage, including loss of life. These are things that are very, very tough to withstand. You don't get a lot of warning on them, and they're very, very devastating. And tragically, to lose 5 really, really is tough for this community. So our hearts go out to everybody who's been affected by this, and we're happy to have been supportive of the rescue efforts, and we'll continue to be supportive going forward. Thanks.
To the left, this way. Sheriff, hey, are there still people unaccounted for?
Let's see how that works.
Okay, final audio mic check for today's briefing. Everybody sound okay, not overmodulated, good sounding audio? You're happy. And are you happy, Omar?
I'm never happy.
Okay, but you're going to live with it.
I'll be unhappy. Si dijeron que no cambiaron nada en ese juego en medio.
Unless you're talking pain, updated.
Pero hay, después de esto, hay un evento frente que me gusta. Sí, pero no sé. Porque ella estaba hablando a los fotógrafos técnicos, pero no sé. Tal vez puedes ser tú, porque para nosotros
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Today I got here. It's been, yeah. It is. It probably just needs like 5 or 20. Turn it off, right? See what happens.
The press briefing will begin in 2 minutes. The press briefing will begin in 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So before I turn to the latest on the hurricane, I wanted to briefly mention at the top regarding the passing of Ethel Kennedy. I expect you will have something from the president very, very soon. They were dear friends, and I don't want to get too far ahead of him in his statement, but the president and the first lady are sending their love to her entire family and everyone whose life was touched by her strength and service. Now shifting gears to the storm. This morning, the president and the vice president were briefed on the impacts from Hurricane Milton and will continue to be briefed throughout the day. We are praying for those who lost their lives and all the communities devastated by the storm. The president and the vice president will do everything in our power to help with the respond, the recovery, and rebuild. Last night, in advance of Hurricane Milton making landfall, the president spoke by phone with several officials in Florida, including Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer, Sarasota Mayor Liz Alpert, and Representative Gus Bilakis and Kathy Castor. This morning, President Biden also spoke to Governor DeSantis about the impacts of Hurricane Milton. The governor thanked the president for the extensive federal support to prepare for and respond to the storm. This afternoon, the president spoke with several additional Florida officials following the impacts of Hurricane Milton across the Florida Peninsula, including Senator Rick Scott, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Gainesville Mayor Harvey Ward, Fort Myers Mayor Kevin Anderson, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings, and Pasco County Chair Ron Oakley. The president told each of these leaders to call him directly if they need additional assistance on rescue, response, and recovery efforts. The president also emphasized that he will be with them and their communities no matter how long it takes. Additionally, FEMA Administrator Criswell has been on the ground in Florida since last night, and today she is surveying the damage alongside her state and local counterparts and will work closely with them to determine any unmet needs. At the direction of the president, FEMA and the federal family began to quickly deploy resources to assist with rescue and response operations, including over 1,200 urban search and rescue personnel and the 3 Coast Guard swift water rescue teams with rescues already underway. Over 1,000 federal personnel, all focused on helping the people of Florida respond and recover. And over 15 million meals and 13 million liters of water are already in the region, with 20 million meals and 40 million liters of water ready to be deployed. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has 2 temporary power teams and a roofing team to diagnose the need for short-term repairs to homes and structures. The Department of Defense has also provided 60 high water vehicles and personnel who can further aid in search and rescue efforts. To the people of Florida, this is still a very serious situation. Please remain vigilant. Listen to local officials. As the president has said, we will be here for you as long as it takes. Now, as you all know, this is an ongoing response, and we are getting information in real time. We're very grateful that we have the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas here, who is on the ground, here virtually obviously, who's on the ground in North Carolina surveying the damage and helping with response to Hurricane Helene. Regarding Hurricane Milton, we won't have all of the answers right now, but we want to provide as much information as we can. And so with that, I will turn it over to the Homeland Secretary and Homeland Security Secretary. Thank you so much again for joining us, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Karina. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So I am currently joining you from North Carolina, where I've been meeting with our extraordinary FEMA personnel and federal, state, and local partners on the ground about Hurricane Helene's devastating impact and the progress we are making in our work to help North Carolina communities and aid in their recovery. Before I share an update on the situation here in North Carolina, I'll provide you an update on Hurricane Milton, which last night made landfall as a Category 3 storm near Siesta Key, Florida, following a day of heavy rain and at least 27 tornado touchdowns. Our hearts break for the Floridians who have lost so much. I was briefed earlier by FEMA Administrator Criswell, who's on the ground in Florida, as Karine noted, along with more than 1,000 FEMA personnel. There is significant water and wind damage across central Florida. As of this morning, over 3 million customers are without power. Structures have been severely damaged or collapsed, and tragically, we know that lives have been lost. We are praying for them and their loved ones. Right now, search and rescue is our highest priority, and we are also praying for those who are unaccounted for and for their safe return. It is very significant that many followed local guidance and evacuated ahead of landfall. We cannot minimize the impact of that. It is imperative that everyone continues to follow the direction of local officials. Milton may have passed, but the danger it poses has not. Downed power lines, flood waters, non-potable drinking water, and debris are creating deadly conditions. Keep listening to local officials and shelter in place until it is safe, if told to do so. Only use generators when and where it is safe to do so. People can find more tips on staying safe after a storm on the FEMA app or by visiting ready.gov. In the lead up to Milton, our administration made robust preparations for the storm. President Biden approved emergency declarations for the state of Florida and for the Seminole tribe of Florida days before the storm made landfall to provide full federal support for the response. We pre-positioned supplies, including food and water, 20 helicopters, 60 Department of Defense high water vehicles with ladders, 1,300 U.S. Coast Guard personnel, and 1,400 urban search and rescue team members across Florida in anticipation of the storm, and staged hundreds of ambulances to assist in the transport of hospitalized patients. Today, FEMA is joining the state to begin damage assessments to ensure Floridians have what they need. FEMA and our federal partners, including the Department of Defense and the United States Coast Guard, are already working closely to support the state of Florida in a comprehensive, coordinated response to the storm. To reiterate President Biden's message yesterday, every available resource is being deployed as fast as possible to impacted communities, and we will not leave until the work is done. The same is true for communities devastated by Hurricane Helene, including here in North Carolina. President Biden and Vice President Harris were here last week, as was I, and we will continue to support impacted communities and first responders on the ground. More than 10,000 federal staff are on the ground supporting Helene and Milton response efforts across the Southeast. Since Helene first made landfall, urban search and rescue teams have rescued over 4,300 people. From a peak of 5.1 million customers without power, we have helped restore power for more than 5 million of them. And we are restoring more every day. We have helped quickly restore cell phone service across the region. At its peak, 3.4 million customers were without service. We have restored service now to more than 3.2 million of them. We have delivered more than 17.2 million meals and more than 13.9 million liters of water. We have helped get over $350 million in assistance out to Helene survivors, with millions more going out every day. All this and much more. These first responders and their state and local partners are doing truly heroic work in extremely difficult circumstances. We are all immensely grateful for their extraordinary, selfless service. The weeks since Hurricane Helene first made landfall have been devastating and difficult. But I want to be clear, we have the capability and the capacity to respond to and recover from multiple simultaneous disasters. No resources needed for Hurricane Helene response will be diverted to respond to Hurricane Milton. We have made it clear we will be there for every impacted community every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We'll go to questions. Go ahead, Kayla.
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, this is Kayla Tauchi from CNN. President Biden indicated that FEMA and the Department of Defense would have enough money to get through their immediate needs in this recovery phase. I'm wondering, after your early assessments of the damage from Hurricane Milton, now coupled with the damage from Hurricane Helene, do you still believe that to be the case?
Yes, I do. We have the resources to respond to the immediate needs of individuals impacted by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, and the associated, it's very important to remember, the tornadoes associated with the hurricane. That being said, we will need additional funds, and we implore Congress, when it returns, to in fact fund FEMA as is needed.
If I could, just a quick follow-up. You said on CNN yesterday that some of the misinformation that had been perpetuated around these storms was already beginning to have an impact on individuals either applying or deciding not to apply for government relief. Can you elaborate on what exactly you're seeing and what exactly you determined to be the cause of that?
So let me repeat that in fact the false information that is being spread deliberately does have a real life impact on survivors, and it is also demoralizing for those heroic individuals who are risking their lives in the service of others. Let me give you one example. There is false information that federal employees who are there to help people will actually take their land. And what we have seen is people reticent, reluctant to access the relief to which they are entitled and which will help them because of the fear that that false information has instilled in them.
Good, Mary.
That is just one example.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mary Bruce with ABC. Another question on misinformation. We've seen reports that some FEMA officials, including the administrator, are being doxxed and targeted online in the wake of these hurricanes. Are you concerned that individuals involved in the recovery effort are being threatened online?
We most certainly are. We are seeing horrific hate speech of all types propagated on online platforms. That deplorable speech has an impact on people's lives, and it is also a motivating force for people to do harm. And it has got to stop. And it is our work in the Department of Homeland Security to combat hate in all its forms. We will continue that work.
Do you have any information to suggest that any foreign governments have tried to take advantage and amplify this misinformation about the response and recovery effort?
I have not been alerted to that phenomenon. We, of course, have seen foreign nations disseminate false information for other purposes. I have not seen it in the context of Hurricane Helene or the Hurricane Milton, which just transpired. But of course, we are quite vigilant in monitoring that.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you, Secretary Mayorkas. It's Nancy Cordes from CBS News. Hurricane Milton knocked out power to more than 3 million customers. How does the scope of the power situation compare to other disasters? And what is the federal government's role in coordinating the restoration of that power? How long will it take?
So, Nancy, a number of questions. Unclear how long it's going to take because, quite frankly, the damage assessment is still underway. So we're at a very, very early stage. Our role generally is to support the state and local officials, the state and local resources, to augment those resources and to work very, very closely alongside them. And we are doing so both in response to Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. But, the response is actually in a number of phases. The immediate phase is search and rescue, life and safety of individuals, and then we go from search and rescue to response and then to recovery. We work very closely with the state and local officials to rebuild whatever infrastructure has been damaged to get power up. We have the capacity to assist, and we also work with the private sector. We have the ability to deliver power immediately, but for the long term, very often infrastructure has to be rebuilt. My visit here in North Carolina underscored that fact, because one of the long-term challenges is going to be to rebuild the water system in a number of cities where it's been completely decimated.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Thanks, Green. Mr. Secretary, it's Jackie Heinrich from Fox. I want to ask you about a different story. This Afghan national who was working for the CIA in Afghanistan was arrested for planning an election day terror plot. He was brought to the U.S. after Afghanistan collapsed. Your agency says as part of the SIV program. The State Department is telling us he was not part of the SIV program, which had strenuous vetting. They say he was never issued an SIV or immigrant visa, and DHS paroled him into the U.S. They further expect the court document to be updated to reflect this from the DOJ side. So, Mr. Secretary, how was this man brought into the U.S.? What screening did he undergo? What did he apply for to get here?
Jackie, I'm here in North Carolina communicating with the individuals who are still conducting search and rescue operations. Over 200 people have lost their lives in Hurricane Helene. We have reports that at least 10 individuals have lost their lives as a result of Hurricane Milton. I'd be very pleased to answer your question in a different setting, but we're here to talk about emergencies and the support that we can deliver to people in desperate need. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Secretary, but we're getting conflicting answers from your agency and from the State Department about a man who was arrested for an election day terror plot. How do you not have those answers prepared?
Oh, Jackie, that's not what I said. What I said is I'd be pleased to discuss this issue at a different time, but I am here to speak about disasters that have impacted people's lives in real time, and that is a subject that I'm addressing today.
Mr. Secretary, can you assure people that appropriate steps have been taken to secure the country against these kinds of threats? Because the outstanding question is whether this man was radicalized before the U.S. government brought him here or afterward. And people should be concerned about that.
Jackie, your persistence in questioning can be matched by my persistence in answers.
All right, we're going to go. Go ahead, Gabe.
Mr. Secretary, thank you. Gabe Gutierrez here with NBC. I want to go back to the funding question a little bit more specifically. So 8 days into the fiscal year, the federal government has spent nearly half of the money that Congress has allocated for disaster relief for the next 12 months. How concerning is that?
It is very concerning, but let me be clear. We can meet the immediate needs arising from Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, and the tornadoes associated with it. When Congress returns, we will need them to act swiftly to appropriately fund the disaster relief fund upon which FEMA relies to deliver assistance to people after extreme weather events. And so we can meet the immediate needs. We will need funding very rapidly.
What if there's another disaster next week?
We are working on a continuing resolution. That is not stable footing for the work that we do in disaster response. And so that is why I underscore the need for Congress to act swiftly upon its return.
Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Green. Mr. Secretary, Michael Wilner with McClatchy. Just want to ask you specifically about the National Flood Insurance Program. Already the NFIP has been chronically in the red. How do you anticipate Milton will affect that program, and is there a specific ask of Congress?
Michael, I'll have to follow up with you on that, but I've been in the Department of Homeland Security as the Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and the deputy secretary, and now, of course, as the secretary. And I've always known the flood insurance program to be in the red.
Go ahead.
Mr. Secretary, this is Courtney Rosen from Bloomberg Government. I would like to ask about the upcoming election in the next couple weeks. Are you thinking about that issue in terms of voters being able to access their polling places in states that are having such significant damage?
Courtney, we have seen state and local officials who are, of course, on point in ensuring access to voting. We have seen them take measures to ensure that people can, in fact, reach their polling places. Some polling places have been damaged, for example, as a result of Hurricane Helene, but they are pivoting to make sure that there are other facilities available to them, and they'll have different places at which they can place their votes. And this is something that the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of our department, CISA, as it is known by its acronym, works very closely with state and local officials to assist in that regard.
Can you give an example of one way that they are assisting in this time?
So what we do, there are three threat vectors. There's physical violence, there's the concern about physical violence, there is the concern about cyber attacks, and there's the concern about disinformation. An example is that we are protective security advisors in each state that assist state and local officials in sharing best practices about how to secure the facilities, both from a physical perspective and a cyber security perspective. That would be one example.
Okay, go ahead. We're going to start wrapping it up, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. This is Skylar Woodhouse with Bloomberg News. As you mentioned earlier, you said that FEMA, will need funds when Congress comes back. But if there is another disaster prior to Congress coming back to session, and as you continue to work with Helene and Milton, will FEMA have to perhaps stop offering services or sending out support for aid if you're running out of cash before Congress comes back?
No, it will not. We have the funds to address immediate needs. If we have to devote the resources that we have to immediate needs, we will do so at the expense of perhaps other long-term recovery efforts. We need Congress to act swiftly upon its return, but we will meet immediate needs.
All right, Jared, you have the last question.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, as you talk about the need for Congress to come back and obviously replenish funds when they do that, I'm just curious, moving forward, as you look forward to future appropriation battles, does Congress need to rethink how they are funding FEMA and disaster relief? In other words, is it like an underfunded service and program of the federal government as is?
Let me take a step back and widen the aperture of that question, if I may. A continuing resolution is not a stable way to fund the federal government. Needs change from year to year, and we need real budgets upon which we can rely and upon which we can predicate responsible financial planning and financial management. So a continuing resolution only retains a level of instability in the work that we do in terms of the assurance of the funding that we need. The Disaster Relief Fund and the funding of it should be completely nonpartisan and apolitical. This is a fund that provides much needed relief to individuals regardless of party. And I have said publicly many a time since Hurricane Helene first hit in late September, then when our brave individuals, and I say our meaning not just federal, but federal, state, and local, reach into flooded waters to save an individual, they are not asking about that individual's party affiliation. They are rescuing a fellow human being, and we need to be funded accordingly.
All right. Thank-
Just one quick one to follow up, Secretary.
Wait, hold on. Go ahead, Will. I told him it was the last question. So, Mr. Secretary, we have one more for you. Go ahead, Will.
Sorry. It's Will Weiser with AP. You mentioned at least 10 people killed in relation to Milton. Is that were those tornado deaths? Can you give us a little bit more information about where that number came from?
Let me be clear, and this is something I want to echo that Karine mentioned at the very outset. This is a very fluid situation. We are just beginning damage assessment. So we have 10 confirmed fatalities. Our understanding is that those fatalities were caused by the tornadoes, but I just want to introduce a little bit of tentativeness to that because of the fluidity of the situation and how nascent it is.
All right.
It is our job to make sure that that number doesn't climb through valiant search and rescue efforts, but we are dealing in the immediate aftermath of a terrible hurricane and many, many tornadoes ancillary to it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. We don't have too much time because the president, as you all know, is speaking at 2 o'clock. So, Will, what do you have for me?
Okay, I wanted to switch gears a little bit. Does the White House have reaction to the UN interim force in Lebanon report that Israel has fired on their position in Lebanon, and there's been at least 2 peacekeepers that were injured? Does the president think that there should still be UN peacekeepers in the region?
So I want to be mindful. I heard about those reports coming in. I need to talk to the team and get to the ground truth of exactly what's happening. I just want to be super mindful because I don't have all the information for me to respond to you at this time. Once I have that, then we can certainly respond.
Can you comment more generally on peacekeepers?
I mean, obviously, peacekeepers, we want them to be safe and protected, but I just don't have anything for you on that particular event that's happening on the ground. I just heard those reports, and I just want to make sure I have the full breadth of the information before I respond. Okay, Danny.
Thanks, Karine. The readout of the president's call with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday said they'd remain in close touch. Just wondered if the president or the White House has heard anything more about Israel's plans for retaliation, and secondly, do we know when they're expected to speak again?
So look, I don't have anything to preview on the next call. As you know, and I've said this many times before, since this past a little bit now over a year, the president and the prime minister have spoken over a dozen times. We talked a little bit in this room about the call yesterday, 30 minutes. It was direct, it was productive. There was a readout that we all put out. And as I said yesterday, and I'll continue to iterate here, this was as it relates to the Iran's attack, they continued the discussion that happened on the staff level, obviously on the leaders level. And I'm just going to be super mindful here. I'm not going to read out from here what Israel's going to do or not going to do. And frankly, I'm certainly not going to read that out to the Iranians. So going to keep that diplomatic conversation as it should be. It is a private conversation, and we read out as much as we were able to, just to give you a little bit of a sense of color of what happened on that call.
Can I ask if you do expect to hear from the Israelis after the Security Cabinet meeting?
I don't have anything to share. What I can say, though, and we've said this many times before, there is regular communication that is happening with the Israeli government, certainly on the staff level, on a daily basis, and certainly that will continue as we have done for the past more than a year now. Okay, Kayla.
Thank you, Karine. Earlier this week, Hezbollah's Deputy Secretary General expressed a willingness to renew talks for a ceasefire. What is the U.S.'s response to that, and what does the White House believe the willingness of Israel is to begin those talks?
Say that one more time, the beginning of that.
The Deputy Secretary General of Hezbollah expressed support for a ceasefire deal.
Look, what I will say is obviously we do not have conversations here with Hezbollah or any of the Iran-backed groups. We don't speak to Iran. That is not how we communicate. We will continue to have conversations with Israel about a way forward with Lebanon, about a way forward here. We believe a ceasefire is the way to go in order to create space to have diplomatic conversations. That's what we believe, and so that both sides can return back home to their respective borders. And that's what we want to see, and those discussions continue.
Just to follow up, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has showed a willingness to disregard the preferences of President Biden and the U.S. team in how he's prosecuted the conflict in the Middle East. And I'm wondering if the White House is giving any new consideration to conditions being placed on aid delivered to Israel.
No.
I wanted to ask a question about the disinformation with the hurricanes. And has the White House been in touch with the leadership of social media networks where a lot of this disinformation is being spread?
So obviously, as we have stated, and the president was very, very clear yesterday about misinformation, disinformation, and how dangerous it is, especially right now when he was speaking at the time, when we were dealing and trying to respond to disasters and preparing at the time when he was responding. So we have made, certainly been in touch with trusted online publishers, influencers, other trusted messengers to meet people where they are, and that's what we have been trying to do, be on those platforms, those traditional media outlets as well, to be very clear about making sure they have the accurate information. And so that is one of the reasons earlier this week the White House launched the Reddit, the first Reddit account, to ensure that even more people, we can meet more people where they are, so we can make sure that we have that accurate information. So that's what we're doing to make sure that we're on those platforms, pushing out what is the accurate information. So folks out there, people out there who are certainly impacted by 2 hurricanes, has the information that they need.
Platforms themselves doing enough to police the disinformation?
I mean, look,
that's on there?
they're private companies, so I'm not going to tell them what to do, what not to do. I think everybody has a responsibility here to try to make sure that the information that they are providing, whether you are a leader, a national leader, a congressional leader, a former president, you have certainly the duty to be accountable here and to make sure that you are sharing the right information, truthful information, not falsehoods that, frankly, certainly put people in harm's way and makes it hard for these brave men and women. You heard the president talk about this yesterday, who are on the ground providing assistance. It puts them in harm's way as well. Go ahead, Mary.
To that end, Congresswoman Luna, who represents the St. Petersburg area, said that she spoke with the president today about the response. She is one of those people who has been spreading disinformation, misinformation about FEMA assistance. Did that come up in the conversation? Did the president, directly talk to her about that and encourage her to stop it?
Look, the president was certainly focused on what's happening on the ground and making sure that the federal government is any needs that are unmet are met, and that everybody who is on the ground, certainly local officials, elected officials who are trying to help their community, has what they need. And look, the president was very clear. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable for bad faith actors, right, to continue to push out misinformation. As I stated, it is dangerous. It gets in the way of providing the assistance that we need. We have heard, you all have reported on stories where people are not asking for assistance because of the misinformation. And so the president was really clear. It is very, very clear. And one of the issues that we have heard, or the lies or falsehoods that are out there, is the $750. It is the beginning. It is something so that people are able to buy, diapers, to buy milk, or able to buy necessities that they need in the moment, at the time, after dealing with such a horrible event. And the $750 is the beginning, and there is more to come. But it's not helpful when people do that. So the president's not going to shy away from that. He was very straightforward, very forceful about it twice yesterday when he spoke to the public. And so we're going to be very, very clear. It is unacceptable. But the calls that the president made today was about making sure that Americans, people on the ground who has been affected by this hurricane, this most recent hurricane, Hurricane Milton, they have what they need on the ground.
Thanks, Doreen. Following up on Jackie's question from earlier on the Afghan terror suspect, NBC is reporting that he was a security guard for the CIA before he came to the U.S. and that he passed 2 rounds of vetting. Does the administration believe there was adequate vetting?
So what I can say is I cannot comment on this directly because it is an active investigation. As you know, that the Department of Justice is currently moving forward with, so I'm going to be really careful. What I can say is every Afghan national who entered the U.S. was screened and vetted by intelligence, law enforcement, counterterrorism professionals, and with every new information that emerges, that if that individual could pose a threat to public safety, we take immediate action, and we take that action. And so, not going to speak to this particular case, but I can speak more broadly, and that's the actions that we normally take. That's how we move forward. And the president has always been clear: protecting the American people will always be his top priority.
Broadly, what would you say to critics who say there isn't enough vetting in these cases?
What I can say is how I just ended my last question to you: protecting the American people is the president's top priority. Good. In the back.
From what you and other officials have said, I gather that the U.S. has at least 2 stated goals in Lebanon. The first one, you said that you don't want it to turn into another Gaza. You're working towards cessation of hostilities. But you also support Israeli efforts in dismantling Hezbollah infrastructure in Lebanon. So how can those 2 goals exist in the same time frame? Is the understanding to first allow Israel to push back against Hezbollah before going into negotiations?
Oh gosh, okay. We gotta move, we have to move. No, I'm just trying to make sure that we're out of here because the president's speaking at 2 o'clock. That's what, they're giving me updates on we gotta move pretty quickly. On answering that question, Patsy, I'll say this. Look, I think 2 things, both things could be true and at the same time. We believe that, and I said this moments ago, we want to see a ceasefire deal. That's what we want to see, to provide some space for diplomacy so that that would enable civilians to go back home on both sides, right? To go back home, both sides of the border. And so we're going to have those discussions. We're going to be hoping to be able to achieve that goal. And we believe ultimately a diplomatic resolution is the way to move forward here. And to your point about Israel, we believe Israel has the right to defend itself. That's what we believe. We've said that. And what we understand is the operation that they're moving forward with in Lebanon are indeed targeted. We're having those conversations. We're being very direct in having those conversations with the Israeli government. That will continue. And we have been very clear with this as well. We protect, we believe and support and certainly support Israel's right to defend itself, and certainly Israel's security continues to be ironclad, our support for them.
And just to pick up on your point that it's targeted, have you, considering the fact that there are American citizens still in Lebanon, have you received any Israeli guarantees that they won't strike the airport in Beirut, as well as the road to the airport, which I understand goes through Hezbollah-controlled territory?
We continue to have very, very direct conversation with the Israeli government. That's what we're going to do. About how the shape and scope and the nature of their operations, of their campaign moves forward, we are going to have, again, very direct conversations with them.
And if I may just quickly on Taiwan, Corinne, in response to Taiwan National Day celebrations, China is feared to respond by either conducting war games or sending its assets to the region. Is the administration prepared on such an event, considering a lot of the military assets have been deployed to the Middle East?
So look, you're talking about the speech that the Taiwan president made. Look, that it is tradition, as you know, for on that day, a long-standing tradition for Taiwan's president to deliver remarks on 10/10. It is routine domestic focus address that has historically prompted little response from Beijing. This year should be no different. We're not going to speculate on what the PRC will or will not do this year, but we see no justification, certainly, for a routine annual celebration to be used as a pretext for military exercises. We urge Beijing to act with restraint. Our one China policy has not changed, and we've been really consistent about that the past 3.5 years. Go ahead, Michael.
Great. Just following up on my colleague's question about the president's call with some Florida officials. I know you mentioned that he had been cleared yesterday with regard to disinformation around the hurricane response. But did it come up specifically in that call? Was that a conversation?
I don't have anything to share besides the president reaching out to elected officials, local and statewide, to offer up their assistance, his assistance, the federal government assistance, to check in, to see what else that they need. We are dealing with, obviously, the impact of a pretty powerful hurricane, Hurricane Milton, and so that was his focus on the call today. I think he's been very, he said it publicly, right? So he's been very public about how he feels about misinformation. And as president, he felt that he needed to say something because it was harming Americans out there who are have been impacted, whether by Hurricane Helene, now impacted by Hurricane Milton, and they need to get the assistance, right? They need to make sure that we wanted to make sure they were ready, whether evacuating, sheltered ahead of this hurricane. And when you have this type of misinformation, disinformation out there, it certainly steps on that. And so, as president, he spoke very publicly twice yesterday, and I think that message was sent loud and clear. Okay.
Thanks, Green. Since President Biden postponed his foreign trip due to Hurricane Milton, has the president spoken with German Chancellor Scholz yet, just about maybe rescheduling the trip, just kind of talking since there was a lot planned?
Yeah, so I think we've stated that we're going to be rescheduling the trip. That's what we're trying to work out all of the details. That's important to the president to do that. When I have more information, obviously you all will be one of the first to know. And the president is planning to speak to both of the leaders very, very soon. And so once we have that information, we'll certainly share that with all of you as well. I think I have to wrap it up here. Yep.
So will the leader level Ukraine defense contact group be rescheduled, or will it happen in the coming weeks at the ministerial level?
So what I can say on the leader level, I understand that that's going to be, that conversation is going to be postponed, and so that I can speak to. That's going to definitely be postponed. Okay. All right. In the back. I haven't called on you in a while.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just on the calls, Florida Senator Rick Scott said that President Biden agreed that Congress should come back early to fund FEMA. So is there a more urgent need, and is the administration all in line with what we heard from Secretary Mayorkas talking about getting Congress to come back?